going back to the beginning of it all for the second day of Phantober. Hi, I'm Jessica. I write Phantom books and it's Phantober, a challenge that I made up for myself where I'm talking about a different Phantom of the Opera every day in October. Today's topic, the OG. Actually, it wouldn't have been OG, it would have been P of the O, but we'll talk about translations in a second. Our story starts with Gaston Leroux, a novelist who trained as a lawyer and spent a lot of time as a journalist, like all the cool novelists do. In 1909, Leroux was a well-known and well-respected author of mysteries and thrillers. His most popular character was a Holmesian detective named Monsieur Rouletabille. In September of that year, he began publishing what would become his most famous work, at least in the English-speaking world, Le Fantôme de l'Opéra in le Gaulois. Leroux took inspiration from real people and real events, like the Chandelier crash of 1896, singers like Christina Nielsen and composers like Eric Satie, a real man called the Persian who hung out at the opera in the 19th century, and of course the existence of a lake under the opera and the use of the opera during the Commune of Paris. Leroux loved to claim that he really did find a body down there, a skeleton. Le Fantôme de l'Opéra was published as a full novel in 1910. This wasn't a standout success among his novels, but it still did well. And it did get an English translation in 1911, and the translator was Alexander de Matos. If you go out to read The Phantom of the Opera nowadays, usually if you just find a random version online with some random cover, it will be the de Matos translation because, like Leroux, it's all in the public domain now. Anyone can come up with a cover, and then print it and charge money for it. And I think that's a bit of a shame because the de Matos translation is actually not great. It kind of sands off the edges of the original and moves a lot of the sensuality and gothic thrill of it. The comic relief scenes become too comic and they just sort of sound silly, and they really aren't in the original. At this point, de Matos' language is very dated. I would recommend, if you want to read The Phantom of the Opera, to find a different translation. I like Lowell Bear, Muriel Ribert is really good, David Coward. De Matos is also the one who translated the Phantom signature, which was F de l'O, as OG, which is certainly something that has stuck. Gaston Leroux's Phantom of the Opera remains iconic because of its gothic romance, its mystery, and its enduring characters like Christine and the Phantom and the Persian. There's some other guy, I think, but oh no. But it's also special because Leroux went to his grave claiming it was true. The Phantom of the Opera really existed. That's the first line of the book. Did he really exist? I don't want to say no. The characters and events that Leroux claims are real aren't. In the novel, he cites sources that don't exist, like the Memoirs of a Manager book that he just made up. He did base a lot of Phantom on real stuff, and then went to let his imagination run wild. And because of that, the story has continued to haunt us like a persistent spirit, that is to say, a phantom. But of course, the real reason Phantom of the Opera gained the popularity it did was Hollywood. But it took a while to get there. We'll talk about that tomorrow in Phantober.